Hello! I'm still in the process of tidying my studio. It is a very long and tedious job, so I thought I'd break it up a bit by doing a couple of other things while I'm doing that. And in the process of tidying, I found a few projects that I've either been meaning to do or are half done, and I really need to finish them. I thought I'd work on those today because they're cluttering up the place, and I really just want to move them on and get them out of here. Let me show you the things that I'm planning on doing, and let's get into it. The first one is a paint by numbers kit that I found on somebody's hard rubbish. They'd just thrown it out. It was brand new in the packaging, so I thought I'd bring it home and paint it up. It looks like it's aimed towards adults, and it's on a wood panel, which is quite interesting. So I'll get to this one soon. I'll show you the second item. This one is a diamond painting kit, and I actually started filming this one a couple of years ago, and I've still got the footage. I only got some of it done, and then I got distracted by something else, so I put it back on the shelf, meaning to do it, and I just didn't do it for so long. I often find if I start a project and leave it midway through that it just takes forever to go back to it, and you can see I've really only done a little bit at the top of the peacock, and unfortunately the diamonds have gone everywhere in the meantime. I also have a third project, this wooden herringbone tray that I paid $5 for in a charity shop. You put it together, and I just thought this could be fun. It says assemble in 15 minutes. We'll see if that's true. Because this seemed like the easiest one, I thought I would start with the herringbone tray. It's in a nice cardboard box, which I think I've thrown into the recycle bin as well. I also threw out the rest of the packaging, and it's a very basic kit with a bunch of wood, a rubber band, and some wood glue. There's also a small instruction manual, and I did follow that for the most part. And it does show that you can decorate the tray in a few different ways if you want. Here are the instructions. It looks pretty basic, but of course looks can be deceiving, so we'll see if it actually is. The wood is actually really nice in here. It was really smooth and there were no nasty splintery parts. The base looks like vinyl covered MDF, and I'll just get rid of that box into the recycle bin. And of course, looking at the instructions again, it says you should decorate it before assembling the tray, but I was too impatient for that. I just wanted to put the thing together. It also says a total of 2 hours allowing to dry, so that is not 15 minutes. Maybe 15 minutes to assemble it? I don't know. But it was relatively simple, I guess, and basically you just have to fit 3 sides together, glue them, and then you can slide the base in and glue the 4th edge. I actually did the gluing and measuring off camera because it was so awkward, but here they are. I managed to also fit all of the rails up the correct way because I had one upside down, if you may have noticed before, and this part slid in pretty well until it got to the end here. I did struggle a little bit, but eventually it slotted in. It's fit snugly together. I'm quite pleased with that. So the last thing was just to put that 4th piece of wood on there, and I found the easiest way was to slot it into the base first, and then I'll be squeezing the glue into those 2 gaps, which we'll see here. You can see how it's just not quite together, and that's because I need to actually squeeze it, but there's no way the glue was going in from the bottle without making a huge mess, so I grabbed a painting knife and I've just blobbed it in there with the knife. This was a much easier method. I spread the glue out on the instruction manual just to make a thinner layer, and then I could just gently kind of push it in there and apply it with that palette knife. I'm quite impressed I thought of this, because usually I would make a huge mess and glue would go everywhere. For once I did something quite neatly. I must be learning things in my older age. But this was probably the least exciting project of the 3, but it was quite satisfying putting the whole thing together. It was an easy enough task, and nowhere near as frustrating as a certain other task which we will see in a little while. I'm glad I started with the easiest one first, although putting the glue in between the pieces of wood was quite tricky, but I guess I'm getting experience with this sort of thing now. So is it worth $5? Yeah, I think so. The quality of the wood itself is really nice, and it has gone together perfectly well. There's a little bit of glue runoff, and I just wiped that off with a tissue. I decided to leave it just as it is for now. Maybe I'll decorate it in the future, but I actually think it's quite pretty on its own with the plain wood look, and I'm sure I'll use this somewhere in my studio. I'll show it at the end of the video properly. I didn't use that rubber band. I wasn't going to tempt fate. It dried perfectly well without it. Now I'm going to move on to this wood panel paint by numbers kit that cost me nothing. I love finding free stuff. It's like my favourite thing in the world. But when I get the box open and take a look inside, you'll see that everything's wrapped in plastic and it's all brand new. some acrylic paint in those little paint by numbers pots. I've got so many of these laying around. The colour palette is very modern and contemporary, all those sort of beigey, pastel-y, neutral colours, which normally I'm not a great fan of, but I figure I'll paint it up anyway in those colours and we'll see what it looks like. I'll just pull out the wood panel from this other plastic bag, and there's also a small paintbrush and some instructions. Yet more plastic to throw in the rubbish bin. The brush they've included is quite nice, although it is quite small. You can see it's a round detail one, but it's a nicer quality than I have seen in other paint by numbers kits. And then we've got the instructions, which are very basic, the numbers on the left side and a colour key down the bottom. I like that it hasn't got the numbers on the wood panel itself, because they can be a real pain to paint over and sometimes they can show through underneath the paint. The wood panel is covered in shrink wrap, and it's pretty much the only reason I picked it up in the first place, because I'd had a look inside the box and seen that everything was in its wrapping. The wood panel itself is really well made, it's lovely and smooth, and I do prefer wood panels as a painting surface rather than canvas, because it's just so nice to paint on that wonderfully smooth surface, whereas canvas has that texture, which I'm not a big fan of. There was some gold already on the painting, and you could see faint lines where the actual design is. And I'll get started painting. I did actually grab a larger brush for the bigger areas, because I figured that tiny brush that comes with it is just going to take forever to paint the whole panel. The acrylic paint that comes in the kit is quite nice, although it is being absorbed into the wood panel a little bit. That's because there's no gesso underneath, but that's fine. It worked well enough, and I just added a bit more paint over the top to get a thicker layer, working my way through the colours from number 1 to 10. This was definitely my favourite kit of the day, and it was the most relaxing to do. I did all of this in one sitting. It really didn't take that long. The design is very simple, but I do quite like it. The colours are a bit beigey for my taste, and it feels like a generic piece of art that you might see in a doctor's office. But otherwise it's a pleasant enough design, and I enjoyed this activity very much. The top part of the picture is meant to be left as bare wood panelling, but you know me, I have to paint the entire surface, so I did end up covering that part too. It definitely needed more of that blue colour just to tie the whole thing in together. After some overly dramatic music, here's what the finished painting looks like. I like it. The gold leafing stands out really well. I think I'll probably paint over this in the future, do an oil painting or something over the top, but for now I'm just going to leave it as it is. Here comes the last and most difficult project of the day, the diamond painting, and I found all of my footage from a couple of years ago, so I'm showing you what this is like when I first got it. I can't remember exactly where I got it, but I have a feeling it was one of those bookshop stands you see in shopping centres, you know, where they have all the stuff on sale. And this is how it looked when it was all brand new, with the diamonds actually in their containers. It also came with a little square of wax, which you use to stick on the end of the diamond painting applicator, which is this rather fancy looking thing. And in the box is also a colour-coded key, so you know which ones to put where. The whole picture itself is sticky, and it has a plastic sheet to protect it. So I peeled some of it back, and I went to work sticking on all of the diamonds. It was going swimmingly to begin with. Diamond paintings are easy to do and they're very relaxing as well, but they can be very time consuming, and knowing me, I would have been distracted by something else in the studio and I ended up putting this whole kit to one side. But of course you probably saw that the diamonds themselves are sitting in a bit of plastic with open wells. They really needed to have lids on them because they just scatter everywhere, as you saw a little bit earlier in the video. I really should have bought some little individual pots and put the diamonds in, but I was far too lazy for that, and I'm going to pay for that in a little while. But I think really I had intended on doing this all in one go over a couple of days. I just didn't manage it, and that was to my detriment later. But this bit looks nice. Everything's going well. It comes with that little dish as well, I think, or did I actually have to pull that out of my stash? I can't remember, because I've done quite a few diamond paintings. I have all these accessories left over. And you may have seen in previous studio tours, I've done that massive skull. I'll link it at the end of this one if I remember. That one took me ages to do. I also have another one which is the Starry Night by Van Gogh. It's the same size as the skull and I'm a little bit scared to open it because I just know it's going to take forever to do. One of these years I will get to it though. So now we're moving on to 2 years later, and this is what I'm going to have to deal with. All of those diamonds have shaken free because I've been moving that box around from place to place. I thought I could still rescue it though, because a lot of them were still in their little holders, and I figured that the ones that had spilled could be put together as there's not too many of them. Because I had multiple colours there, I decided to peel off all of the plastic, so I could stick all of the black ones on to begin with, and then maybe all of the pink ones. I'm recycling one of the cardboard trays out of the other craft kits just to shake all of these loose diamonds into, and then I could probably just pick them out from there. I thought that picking out the black and the pink ones to begin with would be the best idea because those are the most visible ones in there. You could see the pink ones standing out from all of the greens and blues, and the black ones were also quite easy to see. This was a great idea in theory, but it may not have worked out quite as I had planned, as we'll see very soon. But so far it looks like it's going to go. I could shake them all out and see the different colours quite easily. So I thought I'd start off with the black ones and just work my way around the peacock. And it worked out really well. I was able to see all of the black ones and just move around the board, sticking them on to the little parts of the feathers where the black was required. And there are also some black areas on the peacock's head and body. The only trouble was this was the end of the day and I'd already done the other 2 projects, so I was feeling quite tired, so I just did a little bit now with the plans of continuing it the following day, sitting down for a few hours so I could just finish the whole thing. My clumsiness, unfortunately, had other ideas. Because I managed to upend the entire box the following morning, and I have diamonds scattered everywhere. It didn't look too bad on the table until I went over to the box, and when I open it, the whole lot was upside down and all of the rest of the diamonds had come out. There was no way I was going to be able to flip it over and rescue them because they'd already just scattered everywhere. And honestly, at this point, I was just so completely over it. So I actually gave up on a project. I don't often do that. But as I was cleaning up the mess, which you'll see right here, with all of the diamonds scattering in, I decided to call it quits because this is just going to be too much work to find all of the different colours, and I have no patience at the moment for it. I've got so many other things to do in the studio and lots of videos to make, and I decided to use my time a bit more wisely, so I thought I'd shake them all out onto this tray to begin with, and I'm not going to throw everything out completely because I just feel that's too wasteful, and maybe one day I will actually revisit this, but I thought I may as well just pull everything out and then drop it all into one lidded container. I could throw out most of that plastic, and now I just have this small thing in my studio with a multicoloured collection of diamonds. At least the lid goes on that properly and it's not going to fall any further. I blame the shoddy packaging in this diamond painting kit. They all need to come with lids. I don't know why they didn't do that, because clumsy people like me are always going to make a mess. Ah, that one is so getting binned. But I put the plastic back on the picture so I can pick it up later if I choose to. It's probably going to be another 2 years before I look at it though. And here are my 2 successful projects. I'm happy with both of these. I'll put the diamonds away for safekeeping, and I'm sure I'm going to use this tray for something. As for the crystal creations, be gone from my sight. But 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and we can pretend the other thing didn't happen. But let me know in the comments if you've had any art or craft disasters lately. We need to commiserate together. At least I got 2 things to come out nicely. And now I need to find homes for these in my studio. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. You might also want to subscribe to my channel, and here's a couple of other crafty videos that I've done in the past, including the skull diamond painting. I'll see you all again in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!